Thank you, Margarita, for that introduction, and thank you for all your help throughout these 2 quarters. You have helped me appreciate the work that researchers do, and I have got to experience a little bit of what researchers have to go through. I learned that there's a lot of passion and patience that goes into your work, which motivated me to complete this project. As Margarita mentioned, my name is Carolina Ruiz. This is my 4th year as an undergraduate student, and I am an intensive psychology major. For my FMP project, I was very interested in examining the different aspects that families have on students' academics. I was always interested in this question because my family has always been my #1 motivation to do well academically. But I became especially interested in the different ways families support students during fall quarter of my senior year, when I started interning at Bonnie Doon Elementary. During this internship, I was amazed to see how many parents would go into the classroom and volunteer. Some parents would spend their whole day there, helping out at recess or with other class assignments. And I noticed that when there were parents there, students became more engaged, especially if it was their own parent participating. It was then when I began to make comparisons between the parents of Bonnie Doon, and which were mainly European American descent, and my parents. Although my parents were never physically there, they always found a way to stay involved, such as reminding me why it was important to go to school, or whenever they found time to help me with my homework. This is how they became my main motivation. I realized that there are a number of different ways that families can influence students' academics. However, when I began to read the literature on the subject of parent participation in schools, most of the authors, who are mainly European American, define parent participation as physically going into the classroom and volunteering. This definition fit in with the parents of Bonnie Doon Elementary, but the definition forgot to mention other ways that families become involved, specifically how ethnic minority parents become involved. This experience, as well as reading about current events where ethnic minority parents have tried to become involved but have been intimidated, has inspired me to present you with the present research project. So my title is The Role of Academic Self-Efficacy, of Family and Academic Self-Efficacy in First-Generation Latino Students' Academic Performance. So first I will go over why it is important to pay attention to parent participation in schools. Several research studies have identified parent involvement as being one of the major helping factors that motivate students to perform well academically. Families also motivate students to do well in school and pursue a higher education. However, the research that defines parent participation is limited. This means that they don't really go in depth beyond the definition of parents physically going into the classroom. They don't take, most of the research does not take into consideration other ways that parents influence students academically. So several things that are missing from the research, or why ethnic minority parents do not fall into the definition of what the research explains, is because a lot of the economic status, so a lot of parents work full time, so they do not have time to physically go into the classroom and volunteer. Also, they may not have time to attend parent-teacher conferences. And I know that at some schools they do accommodate the parents, but this has not been looked at in the research, or it has, but it's very limited. Also, the legal status of the parents could be intimidating, or could be an intimidating factor. There was parent trigger laws were passed in 2010, and the parent trigger laws say that that if parents are not satisfied with the school system, they're able to sign a petition in order to change the school to a charter school or to change the staff and administration. In Compton, California, several parents tried to initiate this and they started a petition. However, they became intimidated because they heard, or they were told, that if they saw their name was on that petition, they would be deported, because a lot of them were illegal, or they don't have they were undocumented. So when they heard this, the parents removed their name from the petition, and then they weren't able to change the school system as the parent trigger laws allows them to. Also, parents there's language barriers between the parents and the teachers. Several schools do have translators for parent-teacher conferences, but this is still kind of intimidating, and a lot of schools don't provide translators. And then many ethnic minority parents are unfamiliar with the U.S. school system. So there are other ways that ethnic minority parents participate in students' education. They have to make several sacrifices for their children to attend school. So, for example, a lot of parents move to the United States for the parents to obtain a better education. They make many financial sacrifices, such as working 2 jobs or and finding ways to provide them with financial support. And some parents do not go to school, so that their students could get the proper education. Parents are also motivators. So they, even though they may be unfamiliar with the U.S. school system, they are able to motivate them and tell them how important it is to obtain an education and how important it is for them to continue on to college. So consequently, students are motivated to succeed in school, to repay their parents, to repay their families' sacrifices and their encouragement they receive from them. So the present study examined 2 different ways that parents help students academically, and it was the sense of family obligations and family closeness. Additionally, students' academic self-efficacy was taken into account, and it was to see the relationship between family closeness, family obligations, and students' academic performance. So several important terms that the study addressed were family closeness. So family closeness was defined as how much social support students receive from their families and from their parents and siblings, and how closeness and how open they were to their parents and siblings. So how much, if they ever encounter a problem, how likely are they to call their families to talk about it, to find solutions, to get advice from them. The sense of family obligations had 2 different components. It was the financial, so how well students perform academically because their parents are supporting them financially. And then also moral obligations, which was how well students are motivated to do academically because they're receiving encouragement from their parents. Their parents did not get a chance to go, so they feel that that's a main motivation for them to do well in school, or they feel like they have to or they need to be mentors to their siblings, to their younger siblings. Academic performance also had 2 components, which was the self-reported college GPA, and then persistence, which was how sure students were that they were going to complete college. Academic self-efficacy was defined as how confident students were in their academic performance and competence. So my research questions were, do family obligations and closeness relate to how well Latino or Latina students perform academically and how confident students feel about their academic performance? And my second question was, does academic self-efficacy relate to Latino or Latina students' academic performance? My hypotheses were, for hypothesis 1, I hypothesized that family obligations and closeness will have a positive relationship with academic performance and academic self-efficacy. And hypothesis 2 was that there will be a positive relationship between students' academic self-efficacy and academic performance. Now move on to the procedures. The participants were 97 Latino college students at UCSC. The ages ranged from 18 to 27. There were 68 female and 29 male. They were all first-generation undergraduate students, and how we determined first generation was neither of their parents had attended or completed college, and then they signed up through they signed up for the experiment through Experiment Link. Most of the participants were psychology majors because they sign up through Psychology 1 because they're required to sign up for several experiments. So the participants who qualified to take the survey signed up for it. The procedures. So participants completed a survey, and it's an ongoing survey by Professor Asmitia. The answers were provided by Likert scales, and they completed the survey in the lab while the experimenter was in there in case they had any questions. So several examples of the survey items were, so regarding college persistence, I am very capable of succeeding at the university. The responses ranged from 1 through 7, where 1 was very true and 7 was very untrue. An example question of financial obligations was, I feel that I have to do well in school to pay back my parents for their financial sacrifices. The responses ranged from 1 through 4. 1 was really true, and 4 was not true at all.